And after months of hard work by the committee, we are here this afternoon for the presentation of the investigation report by the Special Investigation Committee. Your Excellency, sir, before proceeding to the statement and presentation of the report, with your kind permission, I'll invite members of the committee to introduce themselves and the institutions and organizations they represent. We will start with the chairman for the introduction.
Thank you very much. My name is Emmanuel Sofa Abdullahi. I am a lawyer and a civil society practitioner. Thank you.
Good afternoon all. My name is Lawrence Landibasi. I'm a security sector expert and secretary to the Special Investigation Committee.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Edinia Michael Aswallow. I'm the president of the Sierra Leone Bar Association and I'm a member of this committee.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Abdullahi Masiambe Bangura. I'm the chairman of the Political Parties Regulation Commission and a member of the committee.
Good afternoon, all. I am Sally N. Adams, National President, Women's Forum Sierra Leone, member of the committee. Thank you.
I'm Victor Masakoi, the chairperson of the Independent Media Commission.
Your Excellency, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Abdul Manaf Kemokai. I work for Defense for Children International as Executive Director. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Sir James Banga, Vice President, Sierra Leone Association of Journalists, /.
Good afternoon all. I'm Paramount Chief Sheku Amadu Tijan Faslokusan Amadu III, Sano Chief Dom Kono District, National Chairman Council of Paramount Chief Sierra Leone.
I am retired Lieutenant Colonel Fatoma Stanogoto, representing the Sierra Leone Ex-Servicemen Association.
Good afternoon. My name is Alhaji Murtada Sise. I'm first Vice President of the Interreligious Council of Sierra Leone. I'm here because a member of this committee, Dr. Archbishop Tamba Charles, could not make it because he's in Kono. He called me an hour ago to say I must be here. Thank you.
Good afternoon all. I am retired Deputy Inspector General of Police, James Franklin Kanyako, Chairman of the Senior Police Officers Association.
Good afternoon all. I am Fatmata Claire Carlton Hansels, the Executive Director of Sierra Leone Legal Aid Board and a member of this committee. Thank you.
Mr. Okay.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency and everybody. Abdullah Koka is my name, National Security Coordinator and from the Security Sector family.
My name is Hawa Salisamai and I'm representing the chair for the Independent Commission for Peace and National Cohesion, who's a member of this committee.
Thank you very much, all the members. I now invite the chair of the committee for a statement and presentation of the investigation report.
Thank you very much. Mr. President, His Excellency, Brigadier Retired Julius Maada Bio, the Honorable Ministers present, the Inspector General of Police, the advisors to the President, members of the committee itself, members of the Fourth Estate, good afternoon. It is my duty today to present to you the reports of the Special Investigation Committee that was set up by the President, His Excellency, to look into the protests that sprouted from various parts of Sierra Leone between August 8th to the 10th, which caused the disturbance of peace and stability in the country. His Excellency the President, after the appointment of the Special Investigation Committee, the committee set itself up to undertake various activities. But before I proceed to that, as has been introduced, the committee is made up of various individuals from various institutions of government, civil society, and other professional bodies. The task of the committee was to investigate the organizers of the protest, the planners, the funders of the protest, and most importantly, to make recommendations to the government on actions that will prevent the reoccurrence of such incidents. In order to do this, the committee set itself up to do this by a thorough methodology. This includes, firstly, visiting all the sites and areas where violence erupted in the country. This includes areas such as Potloko, Lonsar, Kamakwe, Makeni, Binkolo, Magboka, and some parts of the western urban and western rural areas. After that, the committee decided that it was important to triangulate the data that had been collected. So we decided to visit areas where incidents did not occur. This was primarily because we wanted to know whether some of the issues that had been reported in places where incidents occur were not prevalent in places where incidents did not occur. So therefore, we visited Kono, Kenema, and Bo to represent some of the areas in the eastern region and southern parts of the country. The committee also requested for access for certain reports, including intelligence reports, studies, and other forms of secondary literatures that were reviewed to at least come to a conclusion based on what the intelligence sector knew. The information gathered from the investigation informed the committee's analysis and conclusion of what happened between the 8th and the 10th. And as a result of that, we have the following findings. On the security sector, Mr. President, the committee found that the security sector, we all know, is key in any contemporary world and any contemporary society. It is charged with the responsibility to protect lives and property. From the analysis that we made, the security sector was relatively prepared for the events leading to the violent demonstration of August 8th to 10th. It also came out that after receiving intelligence for a month, the committee said and found out that most of the postures were reactive rather than proactive to forestall the infamous incident. It should also be noted that less than a week to the incident, the newly appointed Inspector General was just taking office, and also at the same time, the heads of the military were out of the country. The committee believed that this created vacuum in the leadership of the security sector. Furthermore, the security sector was challenged by the paucity of logistics, namely mobility, riot control equipment, communication assets, and manpower in many of the locations where these incidents took place. Disaggregating the narratives learned from interviews conducted, it will appear that the intelligence provided by the IIS of the Sierra Leone police was not enough and timely to support the police. Mr. President, we also note that the emergency military aid to civil power was invoked, and that also helped to salvage the situation. At the subnational level, that is, the provincial and district security committees were established and they were in operation. And we also discovered that in some of the areas where the incident occurred, these committees were less effective. In areas where the incident did not occur, the committee came out to find that the intelligence committee were very active. Additionally, the Special Investigation Committee found that the police was high-handed before, after, and during the insurrections. The Special Investigation Committee also found that personnel and resources were insufficient and hindered the performance of their duty in an insurrection of this magnitude. Mr. President, when it comes to the issue of the criminal justice system, there were a lot of praises for the criminal justice system. A lot of people thought that a lot of reforms have taken place. There are now courts in every district. Magistrates are sitting down in every district and adjudicating. But there are complaints about the delay still in the dispensation of justice. For example, in Lonsar, it was reported that one of the reasons why people wanted to jump on the street was that some of their children who were arrested in another incident before this are still in detention and have not been charged or tried. It also came out, Mr. President, that some citizens believe that the criminal justice system is a regime serving and non-independent. In terms of the economy, Mr. President, prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, the projected economic growth for 2019 was at 4.8% from 3.8% in 2018. However, during COVID-19 pandemic, the country's economic growth dropped due to economic shock and interruption in the economic supply chain. Additionally, the war in Ukraine has compounded the economic hardship in most countries of the world, including Sierra Leone. Fuel and food prices have soared after affecting socioeconomic well-being. In all the areas visited by the committee, there was insistent complaints of economic hardship and food insecurity. Although the situation is not akin to Sierra Leone, the indications are that they may have genuinely contributed to the August 10th incident, with rogue politicians exploiting the reality of to their political advantage. In terms of the political dynamics, Mr. President, Sierra Leone is politically polarized along regional and ethnic lines. This is evident in the voting patterns of the last 4 election cycles. Most parts of the western area, the northwest and the northern regions are perceived as stronghold of the APC, while the south and eastern region are stronghold of the SLPP. Now, SIC found out that all the violent protests of August 10th took place in the perceived stronghold of the APC, and that apart from few placards carrying messages of economic situation in the country, one dominant message that resonated across all of these areas was that Maada Bio must go, to which the committee found that it could not have been coincidental. This is also reinforced by the timing and spontaneity of the protest, starting at around 6 a.m. to 900 hours in the affected areas. In all the hotspots, stakeholders shared names of politicians loyal to opposition who were providing guidance and support to the protesters. The Lunge fuel stations, the Kafubulum Chief Sisters, the APC office, the Makeni Councillor, the Magboka Kamakwe area, and video and transcript were available to this effect. There are also indications that the protests were politically motivated and they were well planned, organized, and executed in a coordinated manner. The SIC found that hate speech and tribal rhetorics in the build-up to the August 8 to 10 incident hugely contributed to creating the enabling environment for the protests to take place. As a president, on the issue of youth unemployment is widespread and affecting livelihoods. It's affecting livelihood, tax revenue, decreasing development growth, and increasing social malaise, which include drug abuse, crime, and prostitution. According to the UNDP Development Index and other indices, Sierra Leone's youth unemployment rate stands at 60%. The existing social structures, which is family unit and community in the country, does not seem to be providing the requisite modeling for young people. This is compounded by demonstrable indiscipline, disregard for the rule of law, and flagrant disrespect for fundamental social norms and values. Reinforcing this further, large number of unemployed youth are a potential for insecurity as a result of their vulnerability. From the investigation, the SIC found out that through clientelism and patronage and employment, youth are recruited, trained, instigated, and financed to perpetrate violence and other forms of social unrest. Many of the youth engaged through focus group discussions lamented that graduates from various universities have not been able to gain any form of employment, while others said they lack technical and vocational education skills to enable them secure jobs, especially in agriculture, construction, tourism, and mining sector. Youth in the northern region of Sierra Leone claim that as long as the SLPP is in governance, they are marginalized from youth development programs. The committee's findings are that there were insistent complaints of youth unemployment and marginalization, substance abuse, economic hardship, and food insecurity. These are not justification for the level of violence that was perpetrated in the country. The indications are that they may have genuinely contributed to the August 8 to 10 incident, which rogue politicians exploited. So, President, on the issue of traditional authorities, and as you can see, this is something that Chief Fasuluku was very insistent on, that we have to look at the traditional authorities. Traditional authorities are central to the country's governance system, as they ensure that the government policies and national laws are implemented at the local level. Paramount chiefs supervise their sections and town chiefs to ensure that there is law and order and peace and security in their chiefdom. The traditional structure played pivotal role in the successful fight against national health emergencies such as Ebola and COVID. However, the Sikh found out that the authority of the Paramount Chiefs was tested during the August 8th and 10th protest. The Paramount Chiefs reported that the authority was eroded and their lives and that of their families threatened. They attributed this to the disconnect between them and the central government, as politicians now deal directly with subjects of their chiefdoms, which undermines their authority. Mr. President, in terms of communication, a key findings of the committee is that there's a huge communication gap between the governors and the governed. Engagement with youth, women, and traditional leaders and other stakeholders in all the areas visited for this investigation reveal lack of information about key governance issues that impact their lives. Furthermore, they informed the committee that the social interaction with government authorities to channel their grievances and frustrations are limited. Mr. President, the media is the next very important component that we looked into. During the investigation, the SIC noted that the mainstream media were helpful in disseminating relevant information to the public and provided the platform for engagement between citizens and security sector, especially with community radios in the affected areas. There were no indications that they contributed in fanning the protest. Unfortunately, in the east end of Freetown, 4 radio stations, namely Tumac, Justice, Citizens Radio, and Radio Tempo, were reported by residents in that area to the IMC of broadcasting disturbing political messages before, during, and after the August 10 protest, of which the IMC was swift to intervene to convene hearings. Social media, on the other hand, became the hub for the spread of insightful messages, hate speeches, disinformation, fake news, which all played a key part in the planning, organizing, and implementation of the August 8th to 10th incident. And it is important to note that one of the key players is someone under the aegis of Adebayo and the People's Power in politics. Mr. President, in terms of infrastructure, the SIC found out that the critical national infrastructures were the target of the protesters, as typified by the violent attack on the Freetown International Airport in Lunge. It was disturbing that we found out that the protesters targeted the airport and planned to dig holes on the tarmacs. This was really very shocking to all of us. There's also the burning of numerous police stations and barracks located around the areas where the protest took place, and also government buses and other national transport infrastructures were burnt. It is therefore very imperative that critical national infrastructures are given extra security because of the type of politics that we play in the country. Protest killing. It was noted by SIC that based on the evidence that is available from the Sierra Leone police and the hospitals, that 6 police officers and 21 civilians were killed in the insurrections. This is already well known. Mr. President, the telecommunications sector seemed to be largely unregulated and are reported to be using outdated equipment that do not meet the standards of the contemporary telecommunication operations in the country. You may want to ask, how is this important? SIC found that it's impossible to trace monies that were transferred electronically for the organization of the insurrections. This is due to the fact that the National Telecommunication Authority does not have the capacity to monitor electronic activities conducted by the mobile network operators. Where it has such capacity, it is undermined by various interests within and out of government who are related and benefiting from the telecommunications company. The banks and money transfer businesses were also not helpful to SIC in providing information for financial transactions that may have been related to the insurrection. The international community. SIC found that the international community, that is the UN Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Association and Assembly, were sending conflicting messages that inflamed and aggravated the situation. Protesters used his tweet to claim that the international community was in support of the action to remove the sitting government. Several tweets and audios from the protesters speak to these claims. These messages give an impression that the international community was in support of the action of the protesters, despite the fact that the state was already under siege. This goes against international jurisprudence, which provides that the survival of the state takes precedence over rights during emergencies. The expectation is that all hands should be on deck to prevent a state of was unleashing on Sierra Leone. The government and its international partners should not be seen publicly disagreeing in a crisis situation of the magnitude of August 8 to 10. Finally, Mr. President, we have made quite an extensive number of recommendations on these issues, which I have highlighted there in the report. There's also a second report, which is for your eyes only, which I will kindly ask you to stay with us after everyone is left so we can discuss them with you. Those recommendations, we kindly ask that your government look into them. They are very key, particularly those that are dealing with communities and security issues. On this note, Mr. President, I want to thank you for appointing us to serve. As Sierra Leoneans, we have done our bit, and we ensured that we did this very dispassionately, with no interest. What we found, what we discovered, the issues that we did not discover, we did not report. What we found is what we reported. On behalf of the committee, Mr. President, I want to present to you the reports. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for the chairman and the committee for such a marvelous job. It's now my unique privilege to invite His Excellency the President for a response.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. The Secretary to the President, Chairman and members of the Special Investigation Committee, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Today, of course, I received this report with great sadness, as once again our nation was aghast with brutal murder of ASP Matthew Moyowa Banya, the Operational Support Division Regional Coordinator in the Northwest region. Headquartered, of course, in Makeni. And this comes barely 8 months since 6 police officers were violently killed again in the August insurrection, and some of them were killed in Makeni. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot live in a society where police officers who have the responsibility to protect lives and property become the object of targeted killings. This is unacceptable, and my government will spare no effort to ensure that those responsible for the death of ASP Matthew Moyowa Banya are held accountable. On behalf of my government and our grieving nation, let me use this opportunity to express our sincere condolences to his family and the entire Sierra Leone Police Force. May God Almighty grant him merciful judgment. Ladies and gentlemen, following the bloody, violent insurrection of August 10, 2022, I assured the nation that a full-scale investigation would be instituted to examine both the immediate and underlying causes, sources of financing, execution, and consequences of the August insurrection, as well as the response of security forces. Because I believe that such an investigation must be independent and professional, I appointed various stakeholders, institutions, and organizations which are critical to our national peace consolidation efforts to constitute a special investigation committee. Therefore, let me at this juncture thank each and every one of you for your dedication and infallible service during this investigation. Despite the challenges, sometimes personal attacks, you have braved the roads, held public hearings, engaged community leaders, interviewed many people, engaged the national security infrastructure, embarked on field visits, and engaged with professional institutions to produce this report. I note that the executive summary of the report states the insurrection was well planned, financed, well orchestrated, timed and geared towards destroying public property and undermining the peace and stability of the state by removing the legitimate and democratically elected president of the Republic of Sierra Leone. That is myself, from political power. There can be no justification to remove a democratically elected government through illegitimate means. Gone are those days. Despite the struggling economy as it is all around the world, we inherited a state whose economy was in austerity. That situation has been exacerbated by the Russia-Ukraine war, by the COVID-19 pandemic, and many other emerging and evolving crises. But that notwithstanding, my government has taken action to cushion the hardship on Sierra Leoneans through various subsidies, salary increments, tax reduction, and waivers on commodities, provision of special facilities to support the importation of essential commodities, and provision of cash transfers to thousands of vulnerable citizens. In just 5 years, we have also mobilized and provided funds to increase access to education, access to electricity, access to water supply, increased performance in rice self-sufficiency metric, constructed more roads and bridges, constructed more purposeful infrastructure, ensured mining communities received more benefits. In fact, in healthcare, we have not only increased access to healthcare, but also reduced maternal and infant mortality rates by a significant margin. I also note that the executive summary of the report states the claim of extrajudicial killings following the August 10 protest could not be ascertained based on evidence collected from engagements with various stakeholders, including the security sector, in all areas visited by the Special Investigation Committee. There was no information provided on either missing persons or summary executions, despite repeated inquiries. Let me state that my government remains committed to upholding the universal principles of human rights and adhering to national and international human rights standards. In just 5 years, the Human Rights Commission has received its certificate of reaccreditation as a Grade A national human rights institution from the United Nations, and my government has enacted more progressive legislations than any other government, such as the enactment of the Gender Equality and Empowerment Act, the repeal of the criminal and libel law, and the abolition of the death penalty. Ladies and gentlemen, since 2018, my government has also made significant progress, not only in rebranding Sierra Leone, but also positioning our country as the right destination for foreign direct investment and tourism. Unfortunately, the August 10th insurrection left a stain on the image of our country. Collectively, this is a stain we must remove and showcase Sierra Leone again as a champion of peace, press freedom, women's rights, human capital development, religious tolerance, and transparency and accountability. I also note that the investigation has made a number of recommendations across various sectors and interests to prevent the recurrence of the event of August 8 to 10, 2022. Let me also assure the committee that my government will carefully study these recommendations and take the necessary actions. Simply put, the report will be acted upon. As we approach the 24th of June, multi-tier elections, let me encourage all Sierra Leoneans to be law-abiding and remain peaceful. But to those who engage in hate speeches, incitement to violence, and incendiary rhetoric, you may have no place in our elections. And wherever they are, the long arm of the law, I assure you, it's going to catch them. To leaders of political parties like myself seated here, I want us to remember that no political ambition is worth the blood of any citizen in this country. On that note, let me conclude by thanking all of you, the members of the Special Committee, for your professionalism and commitment to completing this Herculean task. Therefore, I received this investigation report of the August 8 to 10 report protest with great delight. I thank you all.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for those words of reassurance and inspiration. On that note, that is how we come to the formal end of the presentation ceremony. And the President has also consented for photo opportunity. And we will now ask everyone to rise for the national anthem.